the presentation. And I would want to go straight there if you don't have any formal apology for the meeting. Honorable Glenis Breitenbach.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning to everybody. Honorable Horn is unable to attend today, and for some reason, the information about committee meetings is not being sent to our new member, Honorable Engelbrecht.
Oh, yeah, no.
If that could please be rectified as a matter of urgency. I've asked several times, he's asked several times, and still he's getting nothing at all. And I see he's not on the meeting. I forwarded the link to him now, but please, the Secretariat must ensure that he receives the information for the meetings. He's the appointed member on this committee.
Thank you, Honorable Breitenbach. Sia, can you just clarify that if he's not on the mailing list so that you can, from today, do that? We know that is our new member replacing Honorable South, was introduced in our meetings by Honorable Breitenbach. Can you just clarify that, whether he has been informed of the meeting?
Morning, Chair. Our apologies, Chairperson. The mistake was on our side. We misspelled his email address with one letter, but I have since been in communication since he's made follow-ups as well. So he is aware of this meeting, Chair, and we did send the links, although late though. But he has since noticed that we've made a mistake, so he's given us the correct now spelled address. So going forward from now, we'll email everything to them. Yeah. Our apologies, Chair.
Thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Breitenbach, for raising that issue. Can we get the acting National Commissioner to lead his team on the presentation?
Good morning, and thank you, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members. We are prepared for the presentation. The Chief Deputy Commissioner responsible for Human Resources will make the presentation through you, Honorable Chairperson. I would like to request that we allow her to proceed.
Thank you. Go ahead. Deputy, can we get her to speak to us, or she's still busy sorting herself out? Deputy.
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson.
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Secretary Minister. Member of the portfolio of vacancies of the strategy, we have developed time frames in line with our recruitment plan. I'm going to ensure that I update the portfolio committee on the current vacancies, senior managers' positions, how we intend to fill them within the DCS. I will also take through the committee on the current DCS staff ratio. In terms of the staff ratio, in line with how our budget allocation will assist us in delivering of the mandate. I will also highlight the review on the organizational structure, which it impacts on the filling of vacancies. And we'll also touch on the challenges on how we have faced few challenges on filling of vacancies, especially with the budget cuts. And then what will be our action for the 2023 on filling of vacancies in terms of the strategies that we have developed for the new financial year. We do have the DCS programs in terms of slide number 4. In terms of administration, there will be more focusing on administrative positions. I'm looking at a total of 5,393 with a total vacancy of 876, and the total number of positions that are within the administration is 6,869. Within the program administration, I would like to indicate that the positions that on the administration that are more very critical to be prioritized include, amongst others, the financial positions, the internal audit, the administrative support in terms of the core deliverance on the core compliance matters that require guaranteeing that there should be assurance on compliance. Those are the positions that will also be focusing within the total of the 876. That also include HR, that also includes the IT. Under the program care, which is our other delivery vehicle within the correctional service, we are looking at filling of vacancies of 1,837. Currently, the vacancies at 2,223. In total, we've got 2,006, and those are the professional posts. And we will also just highlight there that we have managed to process within this financial year that is ending now in March, the filling of social workers, psychologists, which are assisting in our correctional centers to render the services under care program. Incarceration and correction, the vacancy is sitting at 1,237, and that is our security and the corrections positions. Those are the call face positions that we are also making sure that our feeder for the correctional service learnership programs must address the under rehabilitation program. We are sitting at a vacant 321, and those include, amongst others, professional posts. And under the professional, we have also ensure that we are addressing some of the positions that are aiding the social workers, auxiliaries, and so on. However, we still have the sufficient programs that also are related to professional, agricultural, that we also need to be making sure that they are capacitated in order to deliver on the mandate. Lastly, summary social integration, where our community correction officials that are assisting on city posts, we are seeing at a vacancy 226. I'm going to run if you allow me just to move to slide, just to highlight in terms of the level on the filling of vacancies, the total vacancy level of CDC, which is level in Chief Deputy Commissioners level DDI for 4 and then 16 which are Chief Director level. And the total directors currently that we are at 83 positions gives us 64 senior managers at 15, 14, and 13. And those have advertised and we are going to be in the process of making sure that those 2 became vacant at the end of this quarter, which the 3rd quarter in December, and we will also be reprioritizing them. We have made also a total 10 interviews will be, and we'll be making sure during the period of the new financial year, we are able to fill part of the senior monies on the 1st quarter. Moving fast to the slides, I'm going to touch based on the issues of the staffing ratio being filling of post. A breakdown. I needed to just give the portfolio committee just we did in March to 2020 into active filling of vacancies, how we were moved the past 5 years in terms of filling of vacancies, number of vacancies that we've been having. When we do staff ratios and members of the portfolio committee, we are determined based on the capacity of the employees that fit on the ground, because we are heavily driven by human delivering of services more than. So in terms of that, you measure that in terms of inmate population. So when you look at the inmate population, in 2016, we were sitting at about 161 and 54 of the correctional service centers on the inmate, and our staff capacity was sitting at 624 with a total vacancies of 2,240, and that gave us a total of 3,864. On this quick one, sir, I'm just trying to demonstrate
You are breaking up. You are breaking up. Hello.
Sure that we are delivering. Okay, can you hear me? Switch off the video. If I switch off the video, sir, can you hear me?
Yes, you are breaking up. Continue.
Okay, thank you, sir. I just needed to highlight on the staff ratio, which our staff ratio is read together with the inmate population. The higher the inmate population, the more we require capacity in terms of security in order for us to deliver the mandate. We received a budget cut, and when you do the analysis of the budget cut, I'm just going to focus on March 2021. In terms of the filled vacancies on the staff ratio, we were sitting at 29,957 with a total number of vacancies of 2,151 with a grand total of 32,108. And if you look at our inmate population at the 31st March 2021, we were sitting at 1,948. What does it say in terms of staff ratio? We have not changed the ratio of 5 in terms of the overall for the center, and that is the program itself with 5 programs ratio of filling of vacancies. I will also just demonstrate on the next slide how we also utilize the model of the staff post establishment on the center. In other centers, you find that 1:300. In other centers, you'll find that 1:5, depending on the profiling of the various inmates for the various centers. The influence on the model of the vacancies will also impact on the number of warm bodies that are supposed to render the security. And there is 1 to 30, which also influence a number of positions that should be occupying security posts in relation to the delivering of the mandate. I'm just highlighting quickly in terms of the summary. The summary on the implication of the staff is that the staff ratio is 1:5, which means that at August 2021, the ratio has declined from 1:4. This it has an impact that our number of inmates was also reducing. However, the population decrease does not assist much on the capacity, because we still have other functions where we are utilizing officials for self-sufficient and other programs in order for us to deliver on the mandate. However, there was also a decline on the issues of the announcement on the special parole dispensation. Had an impact on the number of inmates, and that also influenced our staff ratio and how to reprogram the delivery of services. Just also to highlight that when you're dealing with the staff ratio in terms of influencing the layout of our budget, we also had to incapacitate more officials on security at our gates to prevent the number of escape, and that also to utilize a number of officials to deal with the issues that influence the maximum, medium, females and youth, and the state patients in terms of the movements to the courts, and also movements to the our medical hospitals within each centers around. We utilize a lot of human capacity, which is the officials, beside guarding them. But that is also something that needs to be looked at in terms of motivating for additional allocation when we are capacity. I'm going to summarize quickly on slide number 9 in terms of the access vis-a-vis the staff ratio, vis-a-vis the reasons for filling vacancies at the access control, and the quality and the number of officials that will be managing in our access control. In terms of the post establishment, it's 1 to 2 per gate, but however, when we check, that is not sufficient, because you'll find that the traffic accessing reports that we are utilizing to determine the access control, it requires that we need to increase the capacity of the warm bodies that are guarding, while we are also utilizing other measures of modernizing. In terms of the ground patrol also, you'll find that it's 1 per shift, and that has not been assisting much. But however, based on that managing of the overcrowding and so on, we looked at increasing those ratios in terms of the warm body. I'm just going to highlight on slide 10 quickly on that. We talked about the security number, which we also increased from 1 to 2, just to also dealing with the issues of the security fencing side, where the warm bodies are supposed to be patrolling and assisting. But just in summary, I'm just also looking at when we deal with the escorts and the transfer from one center to another center, especially on maximum of offenders and transporting them. Sometimes it requires a bigger tactical team that needs to be accompanied, especially the high-risk inmate, where we use the classification of C and D. You will then back up them with subs, but however, our number of officials on the escort becomes high, because we also support with the medical treat, and if there are also patients that we are moving. That requires a higher number. But with the challenges of us having a budget cut, we have realized that working within our means, it requires also capacitating. It requires the warm body. And I'm just going to quickly move that beside the security, we are also using the dogs units. The dogs units require warm bodies also that are assisting us, and also on the security on our kitchens, we are requiring also filling of those vacancies. Under corrections ratios, the issues that has to do with 1 is to 200 in terms of our norm. And then when you have about 240 inmates, you'll find that the current challenge is only one official with 240 because of the structure. We are rectifying the structure on that in order to assist that it can be 240 based on the correction ratio, but we then have to balance the 240 with a warm body, and we fill those vacancies in order to balance that the inmates cannot overpower our officials. That is in place, and then we are just demonstrating before portfolio committee to say that used to be the norm on the previous. But on the post-establishment, that was what was in the structure. But going forward, in terms of what we are doing, we are saying with those we are currently have motivated to say the result of supervisors is 1 to 6, but at a lower level, it has to be about 12 to 30 or managing even the 240 inmates. That I just wanted to use. On the minimum security, it used to also on the previous establishment, meaning that it's 1 to 30, and then was the standard that was required. But we are also looking at working with the teams so that it can be integrated, but meaning that HR, we are supporting in terms of capacitating those positions and make sure that there are warm bodies that are rendering that. I'm going to quickly move from the staff ratios, which we have actually given a breakdown under corrections on number of post-establishment in terms of the totals that we are there. Just to highlight on slide 19 on the review of the organizational structure, which impact on the filling of vacancies. We have been directed by our Honorable Minister and the Acting National Commissioner to make sure that the review of the organizational structure is actually addressing head office, regional and management area in terms of the district model, where our district centers are supposed to adhere to the delivery of services closer to our people. And those principles that we were looking at, we were streamlining in terms of the service delivery on the higher level, which is the managerial levels, and populating more of the capacity on the ratios at a level of a district in terms of addressing the filling of vacancies. The decentralization of the center model operating is to make sure that the delegations of those functions are at a district management area and center level based on the staff ratios that is before yourself in terms of capacity. At head office, we are looking at a lean office structure that is responsive, integrating to our strategy in supporting the strong data and reporting to our centers. How we are going to drive that? We will be making sure that those vacancies at the regional level, at a center level, especially on our security, on our self-sufficient, are capacitated within the budget that has been approved, while we are also motivating for additional allocation, because the higher the center is overcrowded, the higher the requirement of personnel, and that requires that we must shift them from one area to another. And in terms of that, it will assist us to have a direct site, to have a direct line of accountability, both on operations and also in a head office. This is how it's going to actually assist us to utilize an operative model that is aligned to our district. I just needed also to just highlight that, sir. And then, however, our challenge is the structure factors that has to do with fiscal challenges on the self-sufficient. If we look at the self-sufficient, it requires also security support when we are taking our officials, our offenders to the farms, we will be required more security. We will be requiring more specialized on agricultural and so on. To sustain our program, we will definitely be needing more capacity. I just needed to just highlight on also to say we are almost to submit to our minister for the approval of the structure in order for us to align to the budget. Let me just highlight, Honorable Chairperson, the issue that has to do with the budget. We have received the budget cuts from 2021, 2022, 2023 for the medium term expenditure framework that is actually not yielding any results in terms of additional capacity. What does it mean? It means that we need to cut off the structure to the lowest in terms of 8,000 position. We are trying to engage with National Treasury, with the acting National Commissioner, and also the Honorable Minister in assisting us that the cut was not supposed to be on the compensation, should have been on the goods and services. But however, on slide 20, the cut was more on the compensation of employee, and that has not yielded so much injecting of additional funding. And that impacts on the structure cut. It impacts on that when we are having people retiring, we will only be focusing on self-sufficient and security more than any other in terms to live within the means while we are motivating. We are looking at possible saving that must emanate from natural attrition, where the natural attrition is when people have retired, when people have passed on. We will utilize those positions to make sure that we are filling vacancies, especially for the correctional service, learnership programs, and also security. And that is how we are going to be modeling the filling of those vacancies that I've mentioned before you, sir, and the honorable members. Under repair. Can you hear me?
You're getting cut off.
Under funding,
You need to reposition.
Honorable Chair, can you hear me, Honorable Chair?
I can hear you now, but you cut
Okay,
off.
thank you. Thank you, sir. And for funding and reprioritization, we are making sure that we've got quarterly targets on how we've been filling positions. I'm going to use an example of the last quarter where we were making sure that the area commissioners, which are the head of centers, we were also fast-tracking the filling of those vacancies. So the funding reprioritization is more of an prioritizing what is the key deliverable in terms of the APP. In terms of the budget allocation, we received a budget of 17 billion for 2022 to 2023. That is the compensation of employees. That it includes all other HR related in terms of conditions of services and managing this in terms of filling of vacancies. So that the 17 billion, we broke it into our HRB. Sure that vacancies, we are also addressing the issues of conditions of services in terms of our head count. Financial at 42,087 positions, but in terms of the constraints on the position, we have revised our position to 40,161. If we are able to get a funding, we will able to sit at 42 in order for us to render the services. The period under review, which is the new financial year that is coming, we have a head count of 39,926 posts that is on the staff establishment. I'm going to demonstrate the vacancies in terms of the presentation on slide 21. We do have a vacancy of a national commissioner. It's going for an advert. We have exhausted an honorable member, which is the president's processes by government on the filling of DG position. That includes job evaluation through DPSA and also compliance in terms of organizational review on the job function and job specification. We have passed that test and we have been given and received a go-ahead, and we are
We're losing you.
Able to confirm to honorable that it's going on the vetting. All those cases in the honorable chair that only had a retirement for the Gauteng region, but we made a transfer in order for us to immediately
I don't know what's happening with the presenter. I lose her all the time.
Yes, Chair. I think they've got a network problem because we're all experiencing that.
Can we propose that the presenter changes devices?
Chairperson, I just Chairperson, can I just change to another backup gadget, Honorable Chair? 1 minute, I'll be.
Please do urgently. Please do that quickly.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Can I continue?
Yes, continue.
Can you hear me? Okay, let me proceed. On slide 21, with regards to the level 15, I just needed to highlight that we do have a position which is a Chief Deputy Commissioner Central Services. This specific position, we have recommended for its abolishment in terms of reprioritizing security positions at a lower level. That is the part of the lean approach for the head office in order for us to utilize its budget, in order for us to capacitate the lower level. So that is how I'm responding to the lean as an example. Under Regional Commissioner Eastern Cape, the position is vacant. We do have an active, however, we also have gone through the job evaluation of the post, and then the weight also came at a level of a DD level for the region. We will be prioritizing that, sir, because we also being guided by our minister and also the acting national commissioner, because we are prioritizing on improvement of services for the whole region of Eastern Cape while we are doing for the others. So it is also a priority for us. Chief Deputy Commissioner of GITO, we had a resignation in the month of December. We are busy finalizing its job evaluation in terms of the guide from the DPSA. It's also just going to be finalized during the course of this week, which will be advertised with the post of the National Commissioner in due course, in order for us to continue to give support and render the IT-related functions of the DCS. Just to move quickly, Chairperson, on slide 22, on level 14, which is the Chief Director, our Deputy Commissioners level, we do have vacancies in relation to specifically to IT infrastructure. We have advertised some time back due to the moratorium on freezing or filling of vacancies based on the budget cut. We were not able to fill this specific with the National Commissioner leading us to reprioritize this specific position. It has been on the first step of the panel to able to sit. We will be making sure that we are moving in terms of the new financial year. Under human resource, we do have the position of employee relation that is responsible for, and also conditions of services matter. On this specific one, it was also affected by the freezing of senior managers' position to capacitate the correctional service learnership program. All of those that you can see there, they were affected. However, as per the guidance by the executive management, in the new financial year, we will be doing quarterly filling of such positions in terms of the breakdown, so that we prioritize more the feeder, which is our security positions, and those are more at a head office level. Quickly, I'm moving to slide number 24. On the level of directors, these include the area commissioners. These include specialized programs within the branches. I'm just going to highlight. They were also impacted with the budget cut, which had a direct impact on the achievement of some of the KPI. For an example, director security, area commissioners, and also heads of centers that were also affected. We immediately had also made submissions, which has received the approval that senior managers are going to be prioritized within the new financial year in order for us to comply with the target of the department on the Employment Equity Act in terms of that. On slide 26, on our directors, which are the area commissioners that were vacant, which were affected in terms of the moratorium, I've just highlighted. We have put a strategy on making sure that all the area commissioners' positions and the heads of centers, especially the ones also that are in medium A and B in Gauteng, they are receiving attention on the new financial year. Will be coming in the first quarter to give an update on some of them, because the panel has already also said it's just a matter of security vettings in some of them that we are also making sure that we are capacitated. This was as a result of the budget cut, that some of the positions that are before yourself, we were not able to prioritize them, as the budget on compensation of employees was not sufficient enough for us to prioritize. On slide 27, and I'm just moving also on the action plan. On slide 28, in terms of our action plan, we have given a breakdown since June. What have we done in terms of making sure that we are advertising, we are also critically filling vacancies that are becoming vacant, but the focus was on the feeder. The focus was on the security. The focus was on professional positions, which is our social workers, our psychologists, our medical doctors, our pharmacists, per each region. The focus was also on correctional service learnership, which has taken a lot of the budget, which we had allocated in terms of the HRBP tool. On the action plan with regards just on head office, some of those positions are already on PESAL. As I'm speaking, I just needed to also highlight under slide 28, that regarding the vacancies, we are making sure that about 21 positions which we identified that were critical, 11 of them are already on the system for capturing, and which are going to be routed for the implementation as per the spreadsheet that is before yourself. Under the coordinator regional, we've been engaging also with the regions. I can indicate that about 71 for the Gauteng, at all the critical positions which were approved in June are already have started on the 1st of March. With regards to 32, that is on Gauteng, we also have made sure that they are already filed as per the approval. There is an action plan on the other positions of SMSs that I've also just highlighted. And I would like to also indicate that part of the recommendation on the capacity, we are also talking to the issues that we are motivating for an allocation, for the allocation of additional budget, so that I'm able to align the staff ratio to the cost in terms of the competency rates and the capacity to the structure. And that is to make sure that we are realizing Section 5, which gives an establishment of the correctional service in capacitating a 24-hour, 7-day establishment with a shift system that is ready to serve, and making sure that we are delivering while we are also self-sufficient, sustaining our programs in terms of the delivery of the mandate. So in short, and it's just to say to the Honorable Chairperson, we will want to wish to ask that the Portfolio Committee assist us in terms of requesting for support on the allocation of budget. The more the mandate it increases in terms of either the unrest and so on, the more the shift system has to be capacitated in terms of the warm bodies. And we are going to strive to live within the salary level of approval which we received from Treasury, but to maintain and with the pressure of our overcrowding of some of the centers, we are saying as correctional service, sister departments might also have to assist us, especially that in our compensation of employee budget, when you are dealing with the nurses, you need requirements of certain funding that will also be assisting us to capacitate all the positions that are vacant while we are rendering the service. I thank you.
Thank you very much. It was a long presentation, even made longer by the breakups in your network. Thank you for completing. Honorable members, you have received the documentation and listened to the presentation. I want to invite you to engage with this presentation. Honorable Tola Ngola.
Yes, thanks, Chair. Sihlalo masiqale ngale yokufika kwe presentation late. That was coupled by an apology. I think siyabaxolela sihlalo, but mayingaphinde yenzeke. We take offense to such things. It would have meant that the subcommittee would not be able to prepare itself properly for the meeting and render this meeting not fruitful. So we condemn such, although Siluvuma Utolo, we condemn such, it must never happen again. Chair, let me go to the issue of the specific occupations in this thing of these vacancies. I say that the biggest vacancy rate that sits beyond 33% is on medical practitioners. On medical practitioners, the post approved are 18, and the post filled are only 12. Now we must take this 12 chair and compare it with 240 correctional facilities. We take this 12 chair and compare it with more than 140,000 offenders. Now, the first question would be, how do we place these 12 medical practitioners to work effectively against 240 correctional centers and 140,000 offenders? To share the 18, the approved 18, don't we think that even our target was too low as compared to these 240 facilities and this more than 140,000 offenders? What was the basis for us to target 18 medical practitioners across the country? I move, Chair, on the issue of the recruitment and retention strategy, which was last adopted in 2008. That's too far. Has there been a review of the strategy? Because my belief is that the strategy must be aligned to the current conditions. So as the time evolves, the conditions do change. Now, if we have a strategy in 2008, in 2022, the strategy has not been reviewed. Has the department not seen any particular or fundamental reason for a review of the strategy to address the current needs? Another thing, Chair, on the issue of the strategy, the recruitment and retention strategy, I want the department to address us and say, since 2008 until 2022, this is how the strategy has actually addressed the issue at hand, which is the vacancy rate, the filling of critical vacant posts. Has there been a positive impact to address the issue of the vacancy rate? Because, Chair, in the strategy, part of what is said there is that you had you make counter offers, you upgrade salary notches. In the report, Chair, the salary notch of the medical practitioners has been upgraded to level 12, but still the problem is persistent, although the salary notch has been upgraded. So that is the reason why, Chair, I want to get it from the department that is the strategy impacting positively in addressing this crisis of the vacancy rate. There is an issue, Chair, that is presented of a staff ratio, which was 1:5, which was decreased by the parole of the national parole of the president to 1:4. I want to check equally, Chair, with regard to that, is this staff ratio counted against the approved bed space, or it is counted against our overcrowded correctional facilities? Well, Chair, in my view, there is a difference. If we say one staff as in against 5 offenders, do we count that as in against the approved bed space of our correctional service centers, or even the overcrowded facilities have been counted in this staff ratio? Otherwise, Chair, I'm not sure if when we outline our most critical challenges that impact or that are halting progress towards the filling of these vacancies, how deep is the impact of the budget cuts? Because that's part of the problems we've been facing consecutively through various financial years. How deep is the impact of the budget cuts? Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Ngola, for those interventions, and I'm hoping that they have taken note of all those issues. Honorable Breitenbach.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning to everybody. I am largely covered by the questions of the Honorable Ngola. I'm deeply concerned about this ratio and the effect of the budget cuts. Already, DCS has one of the biggest budgets, well, has the biggest budget, in fact, in the security cluster, and still we seem to be unable to make inroads into acceptable ratios. It's deeply troubling, and we don't seem to be able to get on top of it. I'd really like a lot more information about how this figure is arrived at, and how it's prioritized. Really, I think this presentation is a little bit light on those issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Breitenbach. Honorable Jacob.
Chairperson, I think I am also covered, and we're probably going to say the same thing, but I am really concerned as to how seriously the department takes the issue of the healthcare system within the prisons. I think it's something that they really need to look into, because I know for a fact when I went into one of them, I was not quite happy with how it was equipped. I was not happy with the staff complement. So how much more then for the others that we haven't seen? So if they could maybe look closely into that and see how they can formulate a strategy around the healthcare system in the prison centers. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Yako. I think you just tell them that you went into that. It was not just oversight. You needed that.
I needed help. I needed assistance, yeah.
Thank you. Honorable Hanif Hendricks.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, the last time I raised some issues, correctional services were very helpful. I also did an oversight visit to 1 or 2 prisons. I was very impressed. And that has not helped me a lot, because now my parliamentary constituency office is flooded with a request for help. And I see they already have I wanted to ask if they can't in the staff member parliamentary constituency office, but let's leave that aside. On my parliamentary constituency office hotline, where I can get in, if such a hotline can be given, especially peers who have served 2/3 of
You are cutting.
at least 2/3 of the sentencing that on the anniversary date.
Your line is bad. Hendricks.
Honorable Chair.
I don't think they can hear you.
And get
Honorable Hendricks.
Can they hear me now, Honorable Chair?
No, that's better now.
Oh, thank you very much for alerting me. Honorable Chair, I wanted to know if it's possible that on the anniversary date of the inmate serving 2/3, if their documents can be before the parole board. Let's assume that they've ticked all the boxes. The victims, for example, have no quarrel that they go on parole. Because after that date, Honorable Chair, it amounts to waiting period amounts to tortures. And they're informed that all the boxes have been ticked. The victims have informed the family we don't have a quarrel if we release the inmate. And then it goes on and it goes into 2 or 3 years. The delays to represent to explain when they've served 2/3 of their sentence, the next day, if all the boxes are ticked, for them to go on parole. And the problem I have, Honorable Chair, is that the people visiting me are all the elderly. They are we call them these inmates. These inmates must look after their own children, must even look after them, do their shopping. So this issue of parole, I would like to hear from the department what strategies they have in place of prison are adhered to, so that the best endeavors that when they serve their 2/3, that is ready for presentation to the parole board. I understand there may be problems after that. The parole board may have issues, but at least it must be ready. And I've been told that 6 months before a lifer reaches his 2/3, the process starts. And if 6 months is not enough, is it possible?
I think we're losing Honorable Hendricks there.
No, I'm done, Honorable Chair.
Thank you. I hope they have connected with your questions. You're breaking up quite a lot. Today's presentation is more focused on vacancies, but I hope they would have gathered what you're asking. Honorable Nomathemba Maseko Jele.
Thank you, Chairperson. And also, Chair, apologies for coming late. I think there's a problem that I need to check with my gadget. My notices, there's a problem. So I don't think that it's the officials. It should be on my side. So let me just apologize for that. Chair, I think Honorable Kola just covered me extensively on some of the issues that I wanted to raise. But let me say, we on our visit, to the facilities, we really saw good things that made us to feel like at least there is some things good that are happening on the ground. But though we still have to do a lot in terms of issues of beds, the overcrowding is still a problem. But my question, Chair, it's no longer going to be I'm not going to get into issues like the vacancies, because they will respond extensively on this one also, because it looks like all our as members, that's where our focus area is. But also on the issue of the programs, Chair, I want to check the impact of these programs that they do, particularly on these lifers, because the reoffenders, there's a lot of these guys, the parolees that are coming back with serious crime. So I'm not sure that is the area that they also have to, we need to zoom into that area and check exactly the programs that we do, or are these people, when we train them, they pretend as if they are fine now, for them to go outside only to find that they are going to commit very horrendous crime than before. So that is the area, Chair, where I would have to request maybe some response on. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Jele. Acting Commissioner and your team, can you please respond to all the issues raised by the members, starting from Honorable Ngola to Jele? Oh, sorry, before that, Yano, I recognize your hand. Honorable Engelbrecht, you have the platform. Honorable Engelbrecht, can you hear us? He seems frozen. Go ahead, Honorable Engelbrecht. You are not muted, but we cannot hear you. I don't know what's wrong there. Can you just check on your gadgets? You are not muted, but we cannot hear your voice. Can you just check on your gadget how we can hear you? It's something there by you. I think Honorable Engelbrecht has got a challenge there. While he's sorting that out, can we get responses, Acting Commissioner and your team?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members for the questions. I am going to provide responses to some of the questions and of course request members of the team, the senior management from DCS, to fill in. I will start with the question from Honorable Nomathemba Maseko Jele that has to do with the impact of our correctional and rehabilitation program, specifically on lifers and the problem that we experience of reoffending. Just to indicate that we will be able to provide a comprehensive answer to that question, but for the sake of the meeting, Honorable Chairperson, to indicate that we ensure that before the offenders are granted parole, they would have been assessed by our psychologists and social workers in terms of their state of mind and emotions and preparedness to interact beyond the correctional facility. They would have also had a victim offender dialogue. So also the parole board can satisfy itself that they recognize the crimes that they have committed and they are have repented and they would not go back to the criminal ways. The challenge that we face that tests our rehabilitation and correctional programs is what happens when the parolees are now living within communities. And that's what we are addressing. Hence, the focus moving on is going to be more on community corrections. The first challenge is that we have realized that the monitoring of our parolees is not as effective as it's supposed to be. Hence, we are strengthening that, and we are working with the South African Police Service, especially local police stations, to ensure that we provide information, but also to NGOs, so that the monitoring of parolees doesn't become an administrative action, but it becomes a true community reintegration program. There's also the issue of the stigma, but also there's the issue of opportunities for parolees to make good of their lives, either through jobs or through community projects. And that's why the focus moving on, even in terms of what the CDCHR alluded to with regards to the organizational structure, we are looking at strengthening community corrections by introducing a project management section that will be looking at coming up with community-based projects for parolees to also work with members of communities. That for us will help to enhance the rehabilitation and correctional programs that our parolees would have gone through. The issue that was raised by Honorable Yako on the capacity and resourcing of our health institutions, I want to confirm, Honorable Chairperson, that I was there during the portfolio committee visit. We followed up the matter, and actually we found out that the blood pressure monitor was actually there in the facility, but it was not in the healthcare center. Now, this is one of the problems that we currently seized with, and we are seriously addressing. We equip our correctional facilities even with security equipments and accessories, but in some instances, members choose not to utilize them. I'll just give one simple example quickly. We make it a point that all correctional facilities have got torches, they've got tonfas, they've got two-way radios. But sometimes when you go to do monitoring visits and operations, you find our members relying on things like cell phones for lighting and cell phones for communication. So we follow up and we make it a point that those that do not comply with the work requirements and standards are disciplined. So with Durban Westville, the regional commissioner has been given an instruction to make sure that there's consequence management that follows the action of not having that equipment where it's supposed to be and where it's supposed to be used. I thought I must just be open on this one. That is the environment. The CDCHR will talk to the issue of the capacity in terms of healthcare professionals and the program that we've put in place to make sure that we capacitate our healthcare services centers. But I must just indicate that we continue to face a challenge with doctors, because the doctors that we appoint as sessional doctors, and sometimes it is difficult for them to stay for longer periods with us as correctional services, given that we are appointing them as sessional doctors. The Honorable Breitenbach also raised the issue of the budget cuts versus the ratios, and how do we then prioritize with regards to application of the budget to the staff complement of DCS. We confirm that we will provide detailed information. This is the basis on which we actually motivate and have discussions, engage with Treasury, highlighting to Treasury that as the Department of Correctional Services, we are a human resource heavy department. Our work relies more on the numbers that we have on the ground, as the CDC did present. And for budget cuts to impact more on compensation of employees is basically keeping our capacity to be able to do the work that we're supposed to do on the ground. But with regards to prioritizing moving forward, the CDC did indicate We are looking more at increasing our footprint at a center level, Community Corrections Center and Correctional Facility Center. The organizational structure as it stands submitted to the Office of the Minister emphasizes more on identifying capacity at head office in regional offices and making the point that we move that capacity down to the correctional facilities, taking functions that are related, putting them together and releasing the resources to appoint more at a lower level. Now, what it means is that we are going to have more security officials, more healthcare professionals, more social workers, and more psychologists as it stands, more skills development officers, technicians in our workshops, as compared to having more managers doing less. So that's what we're doing. We're restructuring the functions at the managerial level to make sure that we give more capacity at the local level with regards to rendering our services. There are issues that were raised by Honorable Ngola. We also would like to thank the committee humbly so for accepting our apology for the submission of the presentation late. It will not happen again. I have already indicated and discussed with management that this should not be how we present ourselves to the portfolio committee. The staff ratio, we present it as a norm, but when we calculate the strength at DCS, we calculate it looking at the approved bed space and also overcrowding. For us, the numbers are very important because movements within and outside correctional facilities is influenced by numbers. I must just give one quick example. The offenders that the remand detainees that are now in our center who were involved in a shooting with subs 2-3 weeks ago, when they now move to court, we have to make it a point that we provide the strength that equals the type of remand detainees they are. And obviously that affects the deployment that you have at that current moment in a particular correctional facility. We go to an extent of even making it a point that we get our EST members from neighboring or correctional facilities, because we do not want a situation where we experience an escape or any other incident during that type of an operation. It will go a long way in eroding the confidence in the criminal justice system. The impact of the budget cuts is very deep because, as I've indicated, it affects the numbers. What actually makes things worse is that we are subjected to the human resource budget planning tool by Treasury. We're the only department in the justice in the criminal justice space, the JCPS cluster space. Now we are required to reduce our staff complement by around 8,000. The CDC has already alluded to that. So as the budget gets cut, at the same time, we are supposed to adjust our compensation of employees to the HRBP tool. We have been in this exercise for the past 3 years or so. The same exercise goes with finalizing the organizational structure, fit it to the HRBP tool, but also make it a point that we take into consideration the budget cuts. Now that at least with the organizational structure, we have reached a point where we have submitted to the minister, the HRBP tool, we have reached a point where we are indicating to Treasury that if we get cut of the 8,000 staff complement, the implications are what the CDC was presenting in terms of the ratios. With regards to the budget cuts, we are making it a point that we don't overspend on compensation of employees. Now that slows down the implementation of the recruitment plan because before we load a post on the PESAL system, we make it a point that we do our calculations properly, and that is not going to lead to over expenditure. There are other issues that were raised, Honorable Chairperson. I will then request through your approval that the CDC HR talks to them. They are more specific I trust that she will be able to answer to those. There's one issue that I have not dealt with, is the issue of that was raised by Honorable Hendricks with regards to offenders that have served 2/3 of their sentences, and the processes that we put in place to make sure that we finalize their files in time and submit to the case management committees to process to parole boards. We do that with a chain of activities that also involves the pre-release settlement unit at head office. We have put in place now a project to monitor this process between the NCCS, the pre-release settlement unit at head office, the case management committees. We've identified in terms of numbers the backlogs that we have, and what we are doing now, we are addressing this problem specific to each and every case. So, Honorable Chairperson, I also would like to request that we submit a report on how far we have gone with regards to addressing the issue. We also request that if there are cases that are specific, as we always receive them on a daily basis, if they can be submitted, my office deals with those cases directly. Because what we do not want is to also find ourselves undermining the rights of these offenders that should be given an opportunity to be taken through our own processes. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Let me apologize for taking a bit long. As I've indicated, I request that CDCHR deals with the remaining questions.
Thank you, Acting National Commissioner and Chairperson of the subcommittee and members of the Portfolio Committee. Let me just quickly also just take you through that. The department has approved the integrated human resource strategy that within it on one of the chapter was the issue of the succession planning and the retention strategy, which on that we are currently enhancing the succession planning and the retention implementation sub-plan to the main strategy. It was approved last year by our Honorable Minister, and we are busy implementing it. It's the one that is giving us much direction on how we are dealing with the recruitment in terms of going forward and addressing the needs of the department. I just needed to indicate that it is available. We will prepare through the Acting National Commissioner if it's required to take through the committee on the integrated strategy. Let me just also move also to assure the Portfolio Committee on the challenges of the medical doctors. Yes, we accept, we note that it has been a number of years that the Correctional Service on the medical doctors were not able to have been able to capacitate it as per the management areas of 46. With the 46 management area, our ratio to HR recruitment, it says 1 to 46. Every management area is supposed to have a medical doctor. But due to the budget cut, which it answers the question in relation to the impact. What is the impact? How deep it is? The impact is as followed. 11 billion cut on compensation was received through the National Treasury and was approved by Parliament in terms of our compensation of employees. It had serious and deep.
Hello, We're having a problem hearing you. So we were hearing the acting commissioner very well. So it's just painful to listen to you because you break up all the time.
I think it's because their budget's been cut so much that they don't have bandwidth.
Thank you. I've noted that, Yano, so I will give you an opportunity. You're going to be the first just in the follow-ups so that you are able to raise your questions.
One indicate to be.
Can I just ask?
We just needed to highlight with regards to
somebody else.
Honorable Chairperson.
I can't hear you. I think whatever responses, somebody else must assist us because you're the only one who cannot hear. We've just heard the acting commissioner very well. So it doesn't serve the purpose because members don't get the answers from you. You break up all the time.
Can you hear me now, Honorable Chair? I'll just be quick.
Yeah, you can be quick, but it doesn't matter if we can't hear you. Let's hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. Quickly, I just needed to indicate that the deep impact on the budget cuts was 11 billion, and dividing 11 billion with the 3 years is 2.6 and 3.5 and 4.7 billion for the next 2 years to come, and that affects filling of vacancies on those professional positions. We are supposed to be having 46 doctors per management area. Due to the budget cut, and their appointments are in line on salaries in terms of the DPSA determination on the sessional doctors in line with the guideline from Health Department. So we will have to engage our sister colleagues and the DPSA on how do we motivate for the correctional service to receive an additional allocation on raising and in improving on salaries of sessional doctors. The determination is outside our limitation in terms of our scope of our mandate, but we will engage the sisters department on their salaries in terms of looking forward. On the issues of remuneration allowance on the rural allowances, we have made a submission. We do have a case with regards to Umtata, where the Department of Health indicated to us that it's not a rural of rural. Therefore, the doctors, the social workers do not qualify for a rural allowance. We are motivating to say we need an exemption that it must be classified by the classification determination and allow us to retain those medical doctors and social workers that are in Umtata. So there is a number of those interventions led by the National Commissioner that we are doing on the areas of making sure that our retention strategy is actually fully implemented. Just on the last one is the issue of dealing with the community services positions. On our organizational structure review, we have noted that it was one of the under-capacitated branch that needs to be also be looked at on filling of vacancies and also on the structure. But the impact on the deep cut, that is the one that is a challenge. We will want to indicate that on the medical doctors throughout the country, what we've been doing, engaging together with health, was also to increase the structure number. There are centers, especially on the Eastern Cape, that did not have a medical doctor box established for the position. We are appointing them in terms of additional to the structure, which is will be rectified when the structure is approved in terms of the box, so that the service can continuously be rendered. I will not repeat much because the National Commissioner has covered, but the HR strategy, it is approved, the integrated one that is actually directing the how part on the recruitment, the how part we are servicing. But the deep impact is the issue of the budget by the National Treasury when they cut off on the compensation. It could have been better on the goods and services, not on the physical warm bodies. We are improving also the conditions of all the employees in the DCS through the same budget cut in terms of the increases on the 1.5, which were the improvements on conditions. That was also, we received an additional allocation, but that to carry it forward, it requires us to address the occupation dispensation. We are currently working with DPSA on the correctional service dictionary, on the medical doctors, all the professions that we are having in terms of how their remuneration can be structured in line with the conditions of services for the correctional service to address the issues of retention, because they are definitely not staying for too long with us based on the salary. In terms of solid implementation plan intervention, there is innovative ways that we have done in terms of natural attrition. We do have a model that we are utilizing within the salaries that has been allocated to be within the salary ceiling. I'm not going to go much because the National Commissioner has covered almost all the responses with regards to all the other questions raised by the Honorable Member. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, honorable members. Can we get quick follow-ups? And I'll start with Jan Engelbrecht, who could not ask his question. Hopefully we can hear him.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me now?
Go ahead.
I'm glad. Thank you. I was partly covered by the acting commissioner's answers just prior to the previous speaker. I just want to raise a question in terms of the basics, in terms, to increase effectiveness in terms of our own approach. In terms of correctional services, which is obviously rehabilitation, the current allowance for social workers, psychologists, and workshop staff members in correctional services is way below what it should be in terms of if we have any hope of actually achieving in rehabilitating offenders. And now with the budget cuts and looking, we have to be honest with ourselves. In the medium-term outlook, we should expect further budget cuts going forward for the a couple of following financial years. And I understand that restructuring will give some relief, but it will give at most temporary relief, because we sit with a very significant problem in that budgets are being cut continuously, and we in a department as correctional services, that's not something that we as a country in general can really afford. To have a very dysfunctional correctional services department, because there's obviously other problems that will flow out from that. Also, what I picked up, and I do understand that there's a big problem with medical doctors, but if I look at the human rights report from the American State Department that comes out every year, there's without fail, there's a very prominent mention of the South African Correctional Services Department and the amount of people that die, or of inmates, and especially TB and HIV is a big problem, and that it casts a very, very negative light on us as a country if these things are mentioned so prominently in international forums, which I'm rather concerned about. So what's not clear for me is a long-term strategy from the department of how will they address the problems in terms of our shortcomings in staff, coupled with budget cuts and the expectation that for the next couple of years, these budget cuts will only get worse. Obviously, we also have to be cognizant of the fact that, you know, the last state capture report that came out a couple of days ago, it is going to have a negative effect in terms of public perceptions of the Correctional Services Department, which we also should take into account, because I think there's a difficult road ahead for this department. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Engelbrecht. Ms. Jelly.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think the question that I wanted to ask, Chair, in fact, I'm not sure if it's a question. It can also be something that the department must also assist us in looking deeper into the young offenders issue. I'm interested in the department to give us a report when they come back on the issue of the young offenders' families. Because, Chair, I thought that maybe in order to cap this problem of the young ones coming to becoming inmates and getting arrested because of things. The report that we got last time, it was we have very young ones that even if it's 1 or 2 that are serving a jail term, something like that. I'm worried, Chair. I wanted to find out if maybe if the commissioner, the acting commissioner, can assist us, maybe it should be located with the community correction section where they can come up with a report, take those offenders, the young offenders, issue back to their families, so that we can understand where do they come from, what kind of families they set up in those families that cause the young ones to find themselves against the law. So my recommendation on this one, Chair, is that can we get a dedicated team to work on this, so that when they come next time, we get the report on these ones, the little ones, and so that we can also maybe have a program that is directed to those families, working together with the Department of Social Development. But my interest is that the very one that we have now in our facilities, can we start there and then get the report and then take that report later to the Department of Social Development, so that we can work together in order to keep these problems back to the families. Maybe we can also have our own family programs that is directed to that, so that we are able to deal with that issue from the origin where maybe it comes from. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. I think those were the 2 hands of follow-ups from members. Can I then ask the acting commissioner to respond to those from Mr. Engelbrecht and Ms. Jale?
Thank you, Chairperson and honorable members. We share the sentiments as expressed by Honorable Engelbrecht, and we are also concerned about the natural and unnatural death statistics that come out of the correctional system. And that's why in the annual performance plan, we actually have targets that are tracking these eventualities, especially with regards to TB and HIV and AIDS. We will be able to provide a statistical comparison, because what we're actually looking at is reducing these numbers to a point where we actually do not have these eventualities taking place. But I must indicate that the profile of our offenders continues to, because of the type of crimes that are committed and the types of sentences that are meted down, we continue to have more of life sentences, we continue to have more of lifers and longer sentences. Now, what that means is that if these offenders then come into our facilities, they are going to spend more years, and obviously they spend those years on treatment. So we need to ensure that on a daily basis, we monitor their capacity and their ability to take treatment. That's why we are very strict with regards to following on the numbers. The issue of the budget cuts, yes, I cannot repeat again its effect, but what we are looking at now as DCS on a broader scale is identifying areas where resources are not being utilized efficiently, where we have leakages, where we have wastages, and we're cutting on those so that we are able to apply the little budget that we have, each and every cent, efficiently. The task that Honorable Nomathemba Maseko-Jele is recommending for the department, of course, as a directive from the committee, we will engage in it. We will start first by actually looking at the work that we're currently doing with regards to the juveniles and the support that we are providing to the families. And on the basis of that, we will then be able to provide a report to the committee, Honorable Chairperson. Let me stop there, Honorable Chairperson, and thank you for the indulgence.
Okay, thank you very much to the department and honorable members. Just before I make the final comments, Honorable Hendricks, maybe you need to just switch off your video, your camera, because it looks like you would have come to the house with a t-shirt. So if you can just close off that so that we don't see a t-shirt in the committee meeting. Honorable Hendricks, please switch off your camera. I think he's busy talking there. Don't know who he's talking to. Maybe he's in another meeting. Just the following points to make, and this is supposed to be raised with the minister. So these questions can then be forwarded to him or Clarity's secretariat. This is in relation to the key vacancies. One, because I'm raising this because I don't expect the acting commissioner to respond to it because he will be conflicted or affected. So in the dates that you have presented, the HR person says on the 13th, meaning next Sunday, not Sunday, that's the time that we're going to read an advert advertising for this position of the National Commissioner. Naturally, that advert might take 21 days or a month. So, and you then need to have a process for interviews, shortlisting first, that takes you into April, interview process, that will take you to May, if it's quick. And basically that date says to us, without you saying it, that there will not be a national commissioner before August. Now, what the implications of that is that if the acting commissioner started in October or November, you would have 3 quarters, 9 months or so of that space. And that has implications because the next section of your slide are people who are reporting to the acting or national commissioner. And you are not able to put dates, which is fair and correct, you can't. because you want to give space to have the commissioner to be in a position to do the appointment of the people who are going to report to this person. So you've got this trigger that if this action is not done, the causal problems of it then go further to others. I think it will be important that we get the proper plan from the minister about that recruitment process, the national commissioner and those reporting to him. As things stand, it doesn't fit our standard. We're advocating for a standard as this committee of 4 months from start to finish of filling vacancies. Even before the advert is out, you have already missed that standard of that kind of an approach. And I'm saying that this is the kind of question I would have wanted to pose to the deputy minister or the minister. But it's something that we're going to have to take up with the minister in writing. I don't want the acting commissioner to be settled in answering that because he doesn't appoint himself. He doesn't drive his processes, because this is a process that must be driven at that level. So I wanted to register that because there's also, I don't know if you know about this acting commissioner, there's also a sickness in this department. Put the issue of freezing of position aside. The sickness that was presented to us a year ago was the fact that even the process of doing interviews can be prolonged and take long because the panels that you put in place, sometimes you have got people who are driven by certain interests where panels are don't get convened. Either so-and-so is not available and so-and-so does not like who's been shortlisted. We've parked that issue before. So I was listening and following through in this presentation of vacancies. I don't know how much that problem has been sorted out, where just after advert, the actual appointment takes ages for it to be done, and has nothing to do with finances, has nothing to do with freezing of post, has a lot to do with some inner battles within the department and the panels. It's something that I'm not going to remove my eye on that particular ball. I'm registering it as a point that we still are aware of it, and I've not seen in this presentation how that is kind of solved. Because if I were to ask the HR person that when she said this position was advertised, interview took place in 2020 or 2021, and then she says there was a freezing of position. If I were to ask her a question that says, at the point of freezing, well, how far was the appointment? It's going to give you different kind of issues. But thank you very much. I hope the Secretariat has noted those issues. I deliberately, acting commissioner, do not want to draw you into this. So I want to thank you with your team for the meeting. And I think you were clear in your presentation. I think the person who was presenting was challenged in terms of the network. It's something that in future, next week when we have another session, must be sorted out well in advance because it's important that we hear what you present and not kind of break up. Otherwise, with that, I want to thank you, all of you, honorable members, the department led by the acting commissioner, and everybody else that has joined us in this meeting. Thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Chair.
Yes, yes.
Can I just get clarity on one thing, and I'm sorry, on what you requested the minister to in responding to? Is there a deadline for that?
I've not raised that. I've not raised that. The secretariat will.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Recording stopped.